Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. If you are just joining us, welcome. If you are returning from a break and you were with us for our first education credit this morning, welcome back and thank you for listening to me once again. We want to always have an introduction because CAMs and board members pop in and pop out based on what credits they need, what education they're interested in. Of course, we recommend to always stay for all of them because you never know what you don't know. But we do understand that you have a busy schedule as this industry is nonstop. We always begin right on time. It's a practice that we've always done. So right at 10:35, here we go. I'm going to be putting the remainder of the agenda into the chat for you right now. While I'm talking, how about we have everyone put into the chat where you're coming in from, and if you're a board member or a CAM, because we have Eddie with us this morning, and he's a new association ally, and he's never been able to see where everyone's coming in from. So let's show Eddie in the chat where everybody is logging in. Our goal at Beyond the Boardroom. Well, first off, I'm Diane Michael, and I'm here with my friend and CAM partner, Lindsay Lombardi, with Coastal Living Association Management and Dominion Management. If this is your first time with us, again, welcome. If you're returning, thank you, thank you. Our goal at Beyond the Boardroom is to educate board members and CAMs in an easy way at your desk, on your phone, while you're traveling. I myself have run this with Lindsay from Africa and from Spain, which is pretty cool. Warren Buffett said, the more you learn, the more you earn. And we highly believe in that. That's why we created this program about a year and a half ago. We know how important education and CE credits are, and that's exactly why we decided to launch the Beyond the Boardroom program. We started on the fourth Wednesday of every month and have already grown to now offer education credits and education on the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month. So mark your calendars. The next webinar Wednesday is going to be April 8th and April 22nd, always the second and the fourth Wednesday. So if I were you, I'd be marking your calendars for the whole year. Keep watching the emails and be sure to save us as safe senders so you don't miss important education updates. And please let fellow board members and CAMs know about our program. So if you're not receiving an email from me, Digital Die, Beyond the Boardroom, Diane Michael, one of those three, however it comes in for you, on a weekly basis, you're missing education notices. So more than likely, because it's an email that comes from an email service provider, it could be in your junk mail, it could be in your spam box. So go in there and find me and save me as your safe sender so you don't miss any continuing education or any type of courses that we're offering, because we are consistently elevating our services. This morning we provided a new category of HOA for CAM credit. We have board member education credits forthcoming. We've offered them. We have legal updates for CAMs, and we have plenty on the agenda for today as well. We're always keeping in mind the CAM approach because we have Lindsay, who is our CAM partner. Lindsay, do you just want to briefly explain how credit works?
Sure. So today, Azure is not presenting a course, but he will in the future, hopefully next month. But when we do courses for credit, at the end of each course, we will provide you with the link to our website where you will enter your information, and we provide you with the course name again, as well as a code word that you will enter. And that code word shows the DBPR that we made sure that you attended and stayed for the entire course in order to get your credit. So just like with an in-person course, if you left before the final exam and didn't turn it in, you wouldn't get credit. The same here. If you leave before it's over, unfortunately, you don't get the code word, so you don't get credit. So that is something that we always say, very important. Make sure that you stay the whole time so that you get all the information.
Okay, so I'm really excited to have Eddie with Azure Pool and Deck Design with us this morning. I have worked with Eddie and his beautiful wife Kylie and their team, I think for 6 years now.
Yep.
They are in the South Florida area. He'll go over their service areas, but one of the things that I like to highlight about their team is that Eddie really started in the industry a long time ago, and he'll explain that too. But he comes from a different perspective because of his beginnings, and he offers services like no other because of that, in my opinion, and just because of their attention to detail and the way that they want to provide service to their customers. So, Eddie, tell us more about you and your business.
Morning, everybody. My name is Eddie Bone. I'm with Azure Pool and Deck Design. Wanted to thank everybody for giving me 30 minutes to introduce myself, our company, and just taking time out of your busy day. Like Diane said, I have kind of an interesting background, which I feel lends very well to our company and our process and really just how we do things. So me start off by just kind of giving you my background. I actually started off going to college as a engineering major and ultimately decided that my skills, although I love building and creating, would be better suited in the business area, but I still retained all of my engineering backgrounds, my attention to details, my eye for making sure things are constructed properly, using the correct materials, etc. I was taken right out of college to go and work for the world's largest pool and spa wholesale distributor. And I was working for two of their branches out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I worked there for a couple of years. Ultimately, they transferred me down to the Atlanta market, where I did outside sales for that company, training for all of our builders and service companies and retail stores. And a lot of the training that we do is actually teaching our clients how to build with and use our products. So everything from proper rebar installation to tile installation to finishes, et cetera, because the company I work for not only was a distributor, but they were also a manufacturer of several of the products that we had all of our contractors use. So in addition to selling them the products, I was also the one that was giving the product education, as well as when things came up, the guy that would go out and investigate warranties. And where that's really, really handy is, again, on that product knowledge and just knowing exactly the order that things need to be completed in order to honor the warranties, which for CAMs is very big, because when you're dealing with an installation that's failed, relying on a company that's got a solid warranty is really, really important. So I was the one that was going out after the fact, and I could tell whether or not the companies had followed the correct processes from the beginning during installation and ultimately what led to product failure. So the company ended up moving me down to the Naples, Florida area. Our company is based here in Southwest Florida. We're out of Estero. I saw in the chat box that we've got quite a few people from Naples and Fort Myers and some of the surrounding areas there. And then obviously all over the state, we've got 170 people attending today. That's pretty impressive. Anyway, so company moves me down to Naples, Florida to take over running two of their branches. Ultimately ended up setting up a showroom for this company and meeting a lot of homeowners and CAMs, et cetera, that were coming into this showroom, working with local builders. And I continued to hear the same frustrations over and over and over again. No communication, don't really understand the work that's being done on the job, haven't heard from their builder. The builder blindly sent them into the showroom to go pick materials, and they don't even know where to begin on the budget. So my wife and I saw an opportunity to start this company where we base all of our values on good construction practices. Our motto is do it right the first time, because ultimately you're going to do it right the first time or you're going to pay to do it twice. And I know that I'm sure a lot of the CAMs that are attending today can relate what happens when you have a contractor that doesn't always follow the procedures to get things done right the first time. So ultimately, we ended up launching our company, and this was in the heat of COVID. And really, it took off right away. The structure that we've put together has really been great. I handle all of the sales and the construction while Kylie helps organize and structure our office. We've got a team of multiple construction crews. We do use subcontractors. I know everybody says that subcontractors are a dirty word, but they're really not. When you hire the right people and you develop the relationships, they become as much a part of your team as an employee was. And in a lot of cases, utilizing subcontractors can actually be a benefit because I can move people where I need to have them. Whereas when you're working with solely employees, you're limited on what the company can handle capacity wise. So anyway, we launched our company, and the first year working kinks out, figuring out really what it's going to take to communicate and deliver that good product. So we started investing in softwares, et cetera, to improve our internal communications as well as communications with our clients. And where this all kind of boils down and links into the CAMs is the more we can all communicate, the more information that I can provide our clients on the front side will be beneficial, not only just on small repairs, but longevity of much bigger projects. So just to kind of go over our system when we tackle a remodel. We start with an on-site meeting with the CAM, the estimator, the construction manager that'll be managing the project, as well as myself. I do set foot on every single one of our jobs that we complete. I am both the first person on the job and the last person that you will see when we finish a project. And I take that role very, very seriously. If it does not live up to our standards, it's not done and it needs to be fixed. So I really do take that seriously. But so we review the complete scope of work at the beginning of every project. During that meeting, we will release the project schedule. That project schedule will be available to the CAMs as well as any other emails that CAM wants to connect into that project. And essentially, our clients would get a homepage for the project or a website per se, where both the CAM as well as board members can follow along on the project with both the daily reports from our field construction managers, as well as follow along the project schedule itself. They can view the daily photos as things come up on the job. Things are relayed to the CAMs as well as the board members themselves. So it really helps bridge that gap of communication from the CAMs to the board members, whereas we're actually able to communicate directly with the board, and they have the ability to ask and have questions answered directly from either myself or anybody else on our team, because we're all looped in on every single project, and it really does help. So we go over all of that at our pre-construction meeting. From there, we have a couple of different things that we do before we start any project. We complete a thorough leak detection on any of the bodies of water. We perform a dry shell inspection, and we do a equipment inspection. And what that does is it gives us essentially a complete bill of health before we start any project. And really what that goes back to, and I caught some of the initial presentation here from Terrascapes, is it opens up that transparency. And that transparency is what everybody is looking for, from CAMs to even the homeowners within your community. They all want to know what's going on, and nobody likes surprises. So when we can conduct these reports and put them together and give something to our clients, the CAMs, the board members, where they can actually look at the health of the pool, that being the finish, the plumbing, the equipment, the tile, the decking, it really just gets everybody on the same page, and we can address any possible changes in a project at the start. So we're not pausing and losing time mid-project, which ultimately drags out projects and upsets homeowners, which means that the CAMs, are getting more phone calls in the office. So we'll go through all of that at the beginning of every project, make sure everybody's on the same page. We can have meetings after the fact if there's additional questions, or your board members or CAMs can shoot messages within our system as well to ask questions. Then we go on to draining the pool and enter into the actual construction project itself. During construction, we are keeping an active schedule. Again, like I said, we're using the Messenger as well as our daily reports. We call them daily logs. Those are all communicated to the CAMs and board members so that everybody can follow along on the project, and really it keeps everybody in the loop on the way. And then towards the end of the project, we'll address how to close out the job, water filling, meetings with the Department of Health, and just how to take the pool back over once the project is finished and balanced, and what needs to be done. Because not everybody has resurfaced a pool before, although we are in Florida, so I'm sure most of you are managing pools on your end. Maybe you haven't dealt with a resurface project, but at the end of any resurface project, we have what's called the startup period. And that this is important. This is why I bring it up. So when a swimming pool is refilled, there is a 28-day period between the day of fill and the day that you can open that pool and allow your residents to swim. And it is a very, very important period. And I bring this up because it actively involves the warranty on your pool finish. So if you've got resurfacing projects where you've got a contractor that's saying, hey, once this thing is filled and we get the water balanced, you guys can swim. Well, that may be true in theory. You can swim, but what you're missing is the warranty aspect of it. That pool finish really needs nobody in that body of water for that 28-day period. And it is a crucial part in the curing process of that finish. So it will be a juggling act between the local CAM and the residents of a community, because they will all be seeing a pool with water in it that they can't use. So knowing about that up front and being able to communicate that to your residents on the front end is extremely important. And ultimately, like I said, it all boils down to, and is written in every single manufacturer's warranty for the interior finishes of swimming pools, that this startup period has to be completed before swimming is done, before heaters are turned on, etc., or it will void the warranty, which again is huge. So we go over all of that, and then we work together with the CAMs and the Department of Health to get the body of water opened back up. We'll work with the local CPO, whoever you've got on staff, to go through any remaining items, because once you open a permit on the pool, the Department of Health will treat that essentially as a reopening, which means that any and all Department of Health related items will go under inspection, which means pool rule signs, shepherd's hooks, heaving lines, and buoys. All of that stuff's going to become under scrutiny, and they will go and inspect every single aspect of the pool area before they open it. And that could mean, hey, if the handle on your pool deck shower is loose, they will flag you for it, and they will not allow you to open that pool back up. So being aware of all of that on the front end, when we're in the startup period during that 30 days while there's water in the pool but people can't swim, we can address all of these items with the Department of Health, so that by the time that startup period is over, you guys are ready to turn over your pools to back over to your residents. I just wanted to touch briefly on some of the services that we offer. We do resurfacing and full-scale renovations, as well as build outs of paver patio areas, etc. So we do full design work. We do leak detection, equipment repair and replacement, heater installation, handrail replacement, which I know seems to be a pretty popular thing. There's not a whole lot of people in the area that are installing handrails. But then we also do paver pressure washing and paver sealing as well. But anyway, I wanted to take time to just introduce myself, talk a little bit about what we do and our process, and turn it back over and see if we have any questions, anything that I can answer today while I'm here.
Diane, you're muted.
Wow, rookie move. Okay, we do have some questions, but I'm also, everyone, going to put their website into the chat. So if you're a CAM, we do a lot of business with CAMs, and, Lindsay's experience. We know it's really hard to find a true pool professional that does what they say, that knows the trends, that knows the codes, that knows the health department, that knows the permitting department. We know it's a lot. So we find that once we connect a pool professional with a CAM, they're usually the ones that are telling everyone in their office. So definitely save their information. Lindsay's going to talk about the classes that they have coming up, but I can't speak more highly for them. They're an award-winning company. Eddie serves as a volunteer board member for the Florida Swimming Pool Association, the FSPA. And I think that they're just rock stars, because I'm also going to put into the chat their YouTube channel, where you can get more of a behind the scenes look, as you'll want to share that with your board members, for those that are in his service area. Let's see, we had a question pop in, possibly a silly question. Can the color of the water be adjusted, maybe green, to make it less appealing to people getting in it during the curing time?
You're asking if the pool water can be green during the curing time?
They said silly question. They prefaced.
Yeah.
So.
No, hey, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Right.
So the water will be green for the first 3 days until we add chlorine in the pool. But once the chlorine hits the water, it's going to be crystal clear. Like I said, it's just one of those hurdles on projects where the more we can communicate on the front end to the residents about what to expect during the project, the more we can get compliance from the residents. It's a good thought, I wish we could dye the water green, but no, unfortunately, it's going to look really inviting and crisp. That's why we just have to be on top of emails to residents.
Next question, and guys, if you have questions, this is definitely a time to take advantage of a professional here. If you have any pool, deck, spa, turf questions. Next question is exactly why a pool can't be used until after 29 days. What happens if people use it?
So that is a great question. The 28-day cure period, and this also known as the startup period, is put together by the National Plasters Council. The National Plasters Council is a group that is the governing body for the installation of pool interior finishes. They create essentially the set of rules that every manufacturer out there goes by in terms of their warranty. All of these manufacturers have vetted the startup process in terms of what the chemistry has to be in the pool during that startup period. And I'll give you just kind of a brief synopsis of what's going on in the pool water during the startup period. Hopefully not a complete chemistry lesson, but so during the startup period, you have fresh plaster, and while this plaster is curing, it is releasing calcium carbonate into the water. Calcium carbonate carries a very high pH, of about 12 or 13, um, we have to actively counteract that pH increase in the water in order to keep that water balanced. Because although the calcium carbonate's being released into the water, we still need balanced water for that pool finish to cure properly, not to pit, not to get cracking, not to scale, etc. So it's extremely important that that water stay in balance during that startup period. So that is an empty body of water. For every person, and this is going to get a little gross, for every person that enters that body of water, you are bringing an outside contaminant into that water. They call that bather load. That's why on your operating permits, you'll see maximum bather capacity. That's what your system is capable of handling in terms of plumbing, sanitation, etc. Each person that's going to get into that water for an hour will actually, through their pores, release almost 2 liters into the water. Yeah, it's
Ew.
gross. Um,
Like, ew, ew.
but that is an active contributor to chemistry fluctuation. And we want to keep the most optimal environment in that water chemistry without any outside factors that we possibly can.
So I will say this. I have never heard this before, ever. I did not hear this when I had my personal pool put in. We were in it before they even, were 100% done and had signed off. They
Mhm.
went, they said, well, I mean, you can get in it if you want, but, nor did they maintain the chemicals for the first 30 days, which I would assume if that affects the warranty, you would think that that would be part of a contract. And I don't think ever on site for a condo or an HOA that's been redone has that been part of the deal. Like it's almost like as soon as they're done and the water turns blue, it's open for business. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, we actually,
They don't most people don't follow the rules or they
I've
don't
got
want
a
to
quick
lose a
little
contract because they don't want an extra 30 days of not letting people in it. I don't know.
it, timing is everything. And I've got a quick, for instance, we bid on a project here locally last summer. We did not get this project. We were in the final runnings for this project, and ultimately, the reason that we did not get this project all came down to timing. I talked about how our company is extremely transparent. I'm transparent about the amount of time our permit's going to take to get, because permitting any resurface on a commercial pool is imperative. And there are a lot of people out there that are out there resurfacing pools and not pulling permits.
Mm.
The company that ended up winning this bid, not only did they not permit the job, they
Oh,
didn't do the startup period. And we found out because I know a lot of the Department of Health inspectors in the area, and I ended up running into them on another one of their jobs. And she was talking about the rough morning she had. And I asked her why. Well, I just finished shutting down so and so's pool around the corner. And I'm like, well, was it this pool? And she goes, well, yeah. How did you know? I said, well, I had a feeling that the reason we lost this job was because these guys said that they could complete the scope of work within the ideal time frame that the board had in mind. And I was transparent with the board up front. I was like, there's no way anybody can get this done and get it done and pull a permit and complete the startup and have the construction done within the window that you're saying. It's impossible if you're doing it the right way.
the right way.
So, and that's just kind of what it boils down to. There's a lot of people out there that will tell you what you want to hear
Right.
because you guys don't want to give the board members the bad news, but unfortunately, sometimes that's what they have to hear. And we work with the CAMs to try and educate the board members about why we do things the way we do, why the process takes the time that it does. It's not because we like dragging our feet. It's because there is a process that needs to be followed in order to close permits out, in order to keep the Department of Health happy, in order to maintain your warranties and make sure that the project's done right.
And
Yeah, well,
and
I mean, your
you
surface is a big deal, so you'd think that everyone would want to follow that cure time rule because that's an expensive job. So if it doesn't cure
Right.
and then you're looking at resurfacing in 5 or 10 years,
Sure.
sooner than you need to be, I mean, that 30 days can cost you a significant amount of money.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's huge.
Well, and this is exactly why we partner with the best of the best so that you get educated, that you learn, and that you know the contacts to call when it comes time for the board to make these financial decisions. And all CAMs know and all board members know that there's all kinds of ways to cut corners, but it's not when you're dealing with one of the biggest investments of your community. And that is definitely your pool and outdoor area. Again, service areas are Lee and Collier County. Please contact Eddie. Their contact information is in the chat. If there's no, oh, we do have one more question. Kissimmee area. Do you work in the Kissimmee area or do you have a referral that you can possibly?
We do not. Actually, we received an email yesterday from the Kissimmee area. We don't. Not currently.
That's funny. Time to get a team over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we are so excited to have Eddie as one of our new education providers. Lindsay, do you want to highlight what
I
courses they will be presenting?
Absolutely. And the first one, I think we just showed exactly why this is an important course that they're going to present for you to take. The art of saying no, when CAMs should delay, decline, or redesign pool projects. Another course that we're going to do is commercial pool forensics, reading the clues before failure happens. And then after the storm, managing pool and deck projects post hurricane. Um, Three very great courses, and these are going to fall under the OPP and the ELE, which is operation of um, property
Property.
and elective credits. And we can't